Okay, for the weight that we were talking about, the loop, here's what the loop, the end result is. And I'm going to show you step by step on how to do this. Okay, starting with your piece of wax line, double it up, and what I usually do is make a little loop, just a little granny knot, like so. And you want to get it as small as possible. That way it doesn't, the reason you want it as small as possible is that way that loop won't catch on the reel when it's going around. And yet, but big enough so you can clip your weight on, as you saw earlier today. Once you get your loop on there, do a series of half hitches. Now I'm just going to do a few just so you have an idea. I usually do a lot because you want to do a lot of these half hitches on both sides of the loop, so that way the loop can't slide up and down when you got the weight on there. So you got 10 pounds, and plus that going through the water as you're dragging it out. So a series of half hitches on both sides. Like so. And like I said, I usually probably do 8 or 9 half hitches on both sides, maybe 10. All depends on what you got. Some, if you use thinner wax line, a little bit more. This is 75-pound stuff, so it's a little thicker. Okay, and to finish this off, you come back through itself. Make a loop around, just 1, 2, and 3. Mono is 5, but wax lines you can do 3. And you slide it down to where it kind of rolls on itself. And you cinch it down and you just trim it right there, and it's finished off on that side. Same with this side. I'll show you again. 1, 2, and 3. And like I said, you kind of roll it down so it doesn't bind up on itself. And once it gets to the end, cinch it down. So that locks it in. So now the loop can't slide back and forth. And once you clip the weight on there, 10-pound weight, you can see just by the few of the things I'm doing how hard I can pull and it doesn't move. And that's pretty much, and like I said, you trim it as close as you want and you're ready to go. You can go a step further and take some PVC glue, rub it across there a little bit, and it'll never unfrazzle. And then once you're done with that, which is usually I have that pretty close to where the wind-on joins into the Jerry Brown Spectra, Power Pro, whatever you guys like to use. That's your beginning of your wind-on where the lead things. So then this is all wound up. Again, this is probably about 150 feet of 200 to 250, depending on what you prefer, where you're fishing. If there's a lot of small fish around, you can go down to 200. I use Linger & Pittman 250 because it breaks at like 350, 375 in that range, so it's pretty strong. Plus the diameter is not quite as thick as the heavier stuff. And then you're going to come to another loop here. Same idea. This is kind of gives me a mark of where I want to put my lights. This is about 40 to 50 feet from the bait. You can either clip on a Linger & Pittman light, those big bulky lights that water activated can turn on, or I use this as a mark for my Diamond Bright lights, which you saw earlier today. I'll start one here, which is, like I said, 45 to 50 feet away from the bait, and I usually do one arm length, and I put another one here, or you can put 2 of them pretty close. And again, it's all personal preference. You can have them 30 feet from the bait or right on top of the bait, whatever works for you. This is what works for me to be successful, because I like lights a little bit further away. It gives me an idea how close we are to the fish. Now, let me show you how to put the lights on this so it's an easy breakaway, and this is real important. They're real thin rubber band. I'm trying to remember what number they are, but you get them at Office Depot, real simple. Small rubber bands are real cheap. You can get a bag of 1,000 for like 10 bucks, something like that. But usually what I'll do is I'll take one end, hold that loop, twist it around, and you want this pretty tight. Keep going around the whole thing, still holding the loop in my hand. And then what you do is you take this loop, pull the one loop through, so now it's locked in. And there you have this loop. And all you do here is very simple. Just take your little lights, go around the whole thing, and it locks in. Again, this is up to wherever you guys want them, 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet, where I like. And what's nice about these is you're winding up. It's got to be these thin rubber bands. As you're winding up and this goes through the guides, it's going to stretch it. Oh, we can tighten a little more drag on here. So let's say the fish is on here and you go to wind it up. See how easy it breaks? And then usually as this goes through the guides, it's under just barely and it flips right off. And you can do that with 2 or 3 lights. And then here's the terminal. I usually use a barrel swivel. Some people like to use a snap swivel, depending on what kind of size bait you got. You want to just throw them on there. I like to crimp everything on because you always have a fresh crimp. And you can see that I have a double loop on there. And that's for really safety purposes as far as strength goes, because sometimes some guys like to use smaller swivels that are a little thinner. And if you just go straight through without any chafing gear at all, just the pressure after a long period of time will actually cut through that loop. So if you don't want to use chafing gear and get it too bulky, I usually use a double granny knot like this. It goes inside and around the eye of the swivel or snap swivel, whatever you guys are using, and then slide this down and I crimp it. I've never seen it fail. So, or you can do chafing gear and go through once and crimp it. That's another way of doing it as well. And then you saw earlier today how we crimped on the bait or lure. But in this case, we were using the hoagies today, which we did have a couple bites. Very basic. And the leader going to the hoagie lure can be 250 to 300. If there's a lot of big fish around, I recommend 300. If they're just kind of different average size fish, anywhere from 50 to 300, then I'd say 250 so we can get more bites. Gives the lure a little bit more action.